Welcome to Tsunami. Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of Tsunami. I'm Satsunami and I cannot believe it, Adam. I finally got you to come on the episode and talk about Sonic the Hedgehog.
Yeah, I'm not sure how this happened. I think I might have taken a wrong turn at Albuquerque, but hey ho, here we are now. So hello, good to be back.
I was just about to say that, you know.
I turned left when I should have turned right.
And now you've fallen down the rabbit hole of Sonic media. You
Oh
poor fool. Well,
it's only a matter of time. In your presence, it was only a matter of time till this happened.
that's true, yes. I'm totally not like a cult leader when it comes to Sonic the Hedgehog. It's like, yeah, try Sonic Adventure. I'm sure you'll love it.
You're far more benevolent. You like the head of a major religion rather than a cult.
Well, all I ask is for a donation of 100 rings for an extra life.
Oh no, the tithe.
Anyway, my side hobbies aside, yeah, we're going to be talking about quite an anomaly in terms of cinema, and I never thought I'd be saying that when talking about Sonic the Hedgehog. Before we dive into what we're going to be talking about today, I've got a question for you, Adam, and don't worry, no pressure, but where were you in the night? No, I'm kidding. What is your relationship with the Sonic the Hedgehog franchise?
I want to say passing, but even then, I don't think it's quite as substantial as a passing relationship. The only Sonic game that I've really put some time into and really tried was Sonic Adventure 1. That was at Satsunami's house when he kidnapped me and sat me down. And no, I'm just kidding. We tried it out. That's the only real game I've put some time into. I played some of the 2D ones for a little bit until my brain exploded because I couldn't handle the speed. So I really don't have any kind of relationship. I never had a Sega console, and I never really played any Sonic games, even when I was growing up. So really, no relationship to speak of.
Anyway, thank you for coming and listening to this episode of Chat
Yeah,
Tsunami.
no.
If you really in our group, I want to say you're more like the FPS aficionado, like for Medal of Honor.
I'm the mature gamer.
Did you print off that badge yourself?
I did wear it this time. Hi, I'm Adam. I'm a mature gamer.
Hide behind your chest-high walls of Gears of War copies.
Just you wait till my health regenerates and you'll be in trouble.
Just you wait till you get that jam off your face, yeah? Then you'll be sorry. Looking back onto Sonic, yeah, for me, I grew up pretty much in a gaming household. My brothers were kind of casual gamers, and that's not a slight against them, but one of my brothers in particular used to play like a lot of the Sonic games on the Nintendo... Sorry.
Wow. So you were saying you were a Sonic fan? All that you gave me there.
Okay, let's take that from the top.
Thanks for showing up today, Satsunami.
No problem. I'm going to go and have a wee lie down. I'll see you later. Let me just recompose myself.
I love that Italian plumber Sonic.
It's the mustache. I also love his sidekick, Crash Bandicoot. I thought they worked well together.
When they're fighting Master Chief.
Yeah, along with Spyro, who just swoops down and saves the day, Oh, God. So, yeah, sorry, let me say that again. So, my brothers both had, like, each of the kind of flagship consoles. One of my brothers was more on the side of Nintendo, and my other brother was more on the side of Sega. And I remember growing up and seeing my brother play the Mega Drive, or, for those in America, the Sega Genesis. And when we were playing together, I was having a good time with the 2D games, but I don't know, like, they didn't grab me the same. Even with Mario, like, I played them and they were all right, but we kind of, it's right to say, isn't it, Adam, that we grew up in a kind of transitional period of gaming?
Yeah, I'd certainly say probably by the time that we were both getting into gaming would have been is it the 6th generation of consoles? So
I think
PS2,
so, yeah.
your Xboxes, and GameCubes were most likely to be our kind of quote-unquote first consoles. Well, and Nintendo 64 as well, I suppose, just before that, and your Dreamcast. So yeah, we're very much in the 3D era, age of gaming.
Because I always remember the very first time I saw Sonic in 3D, and that was when my brother got a Dreamcast. And I always remember seeing it because I think I've said this story before on the show, but I think I was going to school or a dentist appointment or something rubbish anyway. And I remember my brother, he was like off school for whatever reason. Yeah, he was playing through Sonic Adventure. And for all those Sonic Adventure fans out there, it's the very beginning scene where you're playing as Sonic, you're fighting against Chaos, who's just this watery demon blob thing. And I remember thinking, wow, this game looks so cool and everything, but I kind of got dragged away at the last minute. You know that way where it's like you want to see the end of it, and it's like, okay, little Satsu, time to go. It's like, no!
That when you learn that life is cruel.
Yes, exactly. That made me bitter and a Sonic fan. Yeah, so that kind of got me curious, and eventually that just led into a rabbit hole of playing like Sonic Adventure for the GameCube when they re-released it, Sonic Adventure 2, Sonic Heroes, those were kind of the main three. Even, and I know this is controversial, but I was even looking forward to the Shadow the Hedgehog game when it came out.
I mean, I don't blame you. I mean, it's a hedgehog with guns. If I'd known that that was a thing at the time, I think I would have been excited for that.
I mean, it is a terrible game, but I kid you not, like, I remember my mum actually bought this game for me. Of all things, I remember I was in church and my mum asked me to get something out of her purse. So I was like, okay, so, I opened up her bag and then all of a sudden I saw this copy of Shadow the Hedgehog, and it was like one of those miracle moments where I was like, oh, you're a good God, thank you. And like people apparently, like some of her friends she was talking to was like, why is Satsu continually staring into your bag? And it's like, well, you see, Shadow the Hedgehog. Sonic for me has always been that kind of comfort food of gaming. It's like, it's one of those series that I grew up with. And although I don't really have the same opinions of the later games, like some of them were better than others, of course, but I don't know, like the Adventure series definitely for me was kind of the peak of my enjoyment of the series. Whether you've like watched my videos either on YouTube or on Twitch, you'll know that like I always return to Sonic Adventure quite a lot because it's one of those series that I played so much. Like you'll probably be sick of watching me, Adam.
No, I'm still trying to watch you play City Escape. So I keep always missing it every time I join yours. I'm always too late. I'm still waiting for you to, for you to play City Escape. But I get that it's that game series that obviously hits you in your nostalgia glands, which I think we all have. I think that we all have that game or that series of games that we probably played as kids. That we can't even look and that's not to say these bad games. It's the games you can't even look objectively at anymore because they're just so near and dear to your heart and you just love them. Just return to continually.
Of course, with a popular series like Sonic, you of course had a whole lot of media attached to it. You had comic books, which I think that would be a good episode for another day because I do not want to deep dive into how there's like aliens and echidna wars and things like that. Who knew echidnas could wage war? Not me until I read those. That's a whole other world. You've got the comics, you had the TV shows. I always remember the TV shows. There was like loads of them. One that apparently was considered really good called Sonic Sat AM, which was like a kind of like the environmental friendly one where it's like them as a resistance group fighting against Dr. Eggman and everything. You had The Adventures of Sonic, which was like this goofy cartoon, and then you had Sonic Underground where it was like a rock star. Have you heard of any of these ones, by the way?
This is wild to me. This is a whole world I have no idea existed.
Okay, we'll be right back in a couple of minutes until Adam watches the. I'm only kidding. For now, I'm only kidding.
Wait till season 5 of Chats Now.
Yeah.
Definitely watch all this.
Yeah, you've got just a long flowing beard, and you're just like, you don't know the shit I've been through.
I'm recording from my cell in the sanitarium.
The Satsutarium.
Aye.
By that point, I'm hoping that Chatsunami is like popular enough that I can fund it.
You can build a sanitarium.
It's like we couldn't buy, better mics, but you know what? That's all we could afford.
Oh, dear.
But yeah, my pettiness to earn money to make a joke a reality aside, I've always heard that Sonic is one of those series that a lot of people have said, oh, they should make a film of it. And I don't know, because technically there is already a Sonic the Hedgehog film, and it's like more of a cartoon. It's terrible. Sonic fights against his robot self, Metal Sonic, Sonic, and there's like an owl mentor figure. But instead of this film we're about to talk about, where, you know, the owl's very dignified and things, this owl is an old man that nearly crashes a plane and then dresses up as a 90s surfer dude. So the 90s were a different time, okay? Adam, back me up on this. The 90s were just a different time.
It's true, but also, why aren't we watching this film?
Next week, don't you worry. Do you know, funny enough, I actually watched this film with Craigie C from the Beer and Chill podcast, and oh boy, it's bad.
Was it everything you hoped it would be and more?
And worse, yeah. Knuckles has a hat in it, though.
Oh my god, that's the worst thing.
Knuckles actually has a hat, and I have no idea why. There's also a cat girl for some weird reason. And I don't mean like a cat, you know, like an anthropomorphic cat. I mean an anime girl with a tail and ears.
Are we talking D4? Are we talking D4 style?
Yeah, nearly. Yeah, only if the tail was real. Yeah, that's the sweary game, by the way. I'm assuming that's what you were referring to.
Yeah, everybody go type in D4 cat lady into YouTube and you'll see what we're talking about.
It made me the man I am today. Twisted and bitter. But anyway, yeah, D4 aside, that's the next episode. Even though they've had like loads of series, I mean, there was even Sonic X as well, you know, the anime series. Despite all of that, despite all the series, the external media and things, we have never had a proper film for Sonic the Hedgehog. And I don't know whether that's a blessing or a curse. You can tell me in the comments, but it just seems weird that it's never had a film. Because even Mario had a film. And it's going to have another film this year with Chris Pratt as the man, the myth, the legend, but that's a rant for another day.
Yay! There was much rejoicing.
But then, of course, in I want to say it was 2019 this film was announced, wasn't it? Or maybe 2018, might have been further back. But they announced it, and that, of course, led to the very, very infamous. Do you want to explain the infamous trailer?
Yeah, so where they thought, hey, we have this cartoon hedgehog, but what if we tried to make it look like a real hedgehog crossed with a human being? And yeah, everybody was like, oh my god, please kill this thing with fire.
It's actually one of the few times that a film's got so much backlash that they actually had to redesign the character model. That was actually really baffling to me, because I remember seeing the trailer and it was played against, I think it was Gangster Paradise, was it?
I think it was, I think you're right.
Yeah, and it was like this horrible 3D model of Sonic. He had like human teeth, he had like tiny eyes, like beady eyes, and it's like, I honestly don't know if there is a copy of the film out there that uses the original model. Do you think there is?
There's probably a cursed copy somewhere that, you know, buried somewhere, buried next to all the copies of E.T. the game, for to be seen.
And there it is, your Atari bashing.
Been a while, I feel like, since I've bashed Atari.
That is true, yeah. So props to you for lasting for so long. See, in all honesty, is it safe to say that this film kind of broke the mold in terms of really just like, this is going to sound terrible, but being a good video game film?
I definitely think it's one of the few examples. There are others out there. I mean, I have a soft spot. I'm not gonna lie. I have a soft spot for the '90s Mario Brothers film. I really like that film, but I know genuinely it's not considered a very good film. Definitely, Sonic's one of the few examples. I'm just trying to think if it broke the mold, because I feel there's another film out there that was based on a video game that people was at least genuinely right. But it's one of the very, you're right, it's one of the very few. You know, there's not many that you can stack up on the good side of, you know, the video game. The movies based on video games.
Well, I think the year before was Detective Pikachu.
Oh, that's the one.
Was that the
That's
one?
the
Yeah.
I was thinking of. You're right.
Yeah, 2019 was when Detective Pikachu came out, and that was, I think, maybe that was the one that was kind of regarded as, you know, oh, they can actually make a good film.
Yeah.
Or a good video game based film. And yeah, I was even surprised, because the first time I saw this film was one of my friends brought it over, and he's not even a Sonic fan. He just said he got it for his birthday, and it sounds like the beginning of like a creepypasta. It's just like, I got it for my birthday.
His uncle from Sega got it from.
Yeah, exactly. His uncle Nintendo from Sega. Yeah. Yeah, the rest was really history from there. But of course, you know, you might be wondering, why are we reviewing this film this week? And the reason being that the UK release date for this film was on Valentine's Day. Would you believe?
I mean, I can think of no other date in the year in which a Sonic film should be released.
Exactly. I mean, you know, you've got the candles, you've got the romantic dinner, you've got a blue hedgehog staring into your soul. What more could you ask for other than a fishing rod for your Valentine's Day treat? see, without any further ado, will we dive into this clearly love fest of a film, this rom-com? Okay, we will dive in, but before that, as always, we will be right back just after these messages. Welcome to Shatsunami, a variety podcast that talks about topics from gaming and films to streaming and general interests.
Previously on Chatsunami, we discussed Game of the Decade, Deadly Premonition, the romantic thriller, Birdemic, and listen to us get all sappy as we discuss our top 5 Christmas films.
If that sounds like your cup of tea, then you can find us on Anchor, Spotify, YouTube, and all good podcast apps. As always, stay safe,
Stay awesome, and most importantly,
stay hydrated.
We are Beer and Chill Podcast.
Podcast where we review TV shows, games, movies, and whatever else takes our fancy.
So what are you waiting for? If you're a cool kid like us, you're gonna listen to the Beer and Chill Podcast. You can get it anywhere from Spotify all the way to your grandmother's radio. My name is Jan.
And I'm Craigie C.
And we are
Beer and Chill.
So, Adam, I've got to ask, what were your first impressions of this film?
I actually really liked this film. I had a lot of fun with it. I think it's a very fun film. You know, it wasn't a chore to watch at all. I watched this with my fiance, and we both had a really good time with it. It's of a good length. It has good pacing. There's lots of funny moments in it. There's good action. So yeah, like I generally was very favorable towards this film. I'm not going to say it's one of my favorite top 10 films of all time, but I was surprised at how much I actually really enjoyed it.
You're saying this isn't the Citizen Kane of video game films?
I will say this is the Citizen Kane of video games, of Sega video games.
Well, you know what? I actually can't deny that.
I don't know if there's another film out there based on the Sega property, but
I have to admit, before I watched this film, I'm wondering if you thought the same as well, but I remember hearing about this film and, you know, all the controversy behind it and thinking, do I really want to waste an hour and a half watching this film when I know it is just going to be disappointing, you know? Of course, when I watched it with my friend, I was like, wow, this is this is actually good. But were you the same?
yeah, I mean, when I first heard it was released, again, having no real sort of interest or love for the Sonic franchise, it wasn't really a film that was on my radar, you know, and also as well, I kind of presumed that it's like, this is probably not going to be very good. So I'll leave this one, you know, by the wayside. But then I heard people say it actually was very good. People saying not only was it very good for a video game film, but it also was a good film overall. So I thought, well, that's interesting. Well, maybe at some point I'll catch it. But I don't know if I hadn't had the impetus of Chatsunami to watch it, if I would have gotten round to seeing it. But I'm glad I did.
Would you say it was worth it then? Not to put you on the spot.
To make a snap judgment, I think it is worth it. Like it is fun. It's a fun film to watch. It's a film. I don't think it's a film that will maybe stay with you for the rest of your life. You know, I don't think it's going to change your life in any way. But you know what? For an hour and a half, there's a lot worse things you could do. You could spend your time, you know, doing. I think it's a lot of fun. I would recommend probably most people watching it because I do think you will have at least a good time watching it. It's not offensive in any way.
Because I think this is one of the core questions that popped up about this film, where, don't get me wrong, like there's a lot of good bits in it, and overall it's like a good kind of as you said, relatively inoffensive film. But I think people were kind of asking the question of, is this a good film, or is it a good film because the standard for video game films is set so low? Is this a good film because of, you know, its own merit, or is it just because of the failures of the past?
I think it's a really good point. I think it gets a slight bump because of previous failures in this genre. So I do think it gets a slight bump because of that. I do think though it is still a good film. So I think it still would be categorized as good. I think that it just gets that kind of extra push because, well, the last video game film that we did here was Alone in the Dark. If I recall. I'm not even going to try and compare the two of them because, you know, one is Sonic and the other one is a dumpster fire.
To put it nicely, yes.
Yeah, exactly. Not to be offensive to dumpster fires.
So I take it we won't be getting a sponsorship from the director of that film or the main actor of that film? No,
I think it's more likely that I'll be challenged to a boxing match like Uwe Boll when we get a sponsorship.
Okay, so I just want to kind of stop the episode quickly to put out applications for a new co-host, just so that, just in case that happens, you know, I'm being proactive.
You probably could beat me up in fairness. I don't like my chances, but...
To be fair, I think he could beat both of us up, even if we went together. Yes, that's why we run a podcast, not a boxing ring. To
But
be
be
fair.
careful, Mr. Ball. I don't know if you've heard, but I'm a mature gamer.
Yes, that is true. He is a badass. He has got a sign on his door that says "Gamer at Work." So you better be careful. You better watch your chest high walls because he's coming.
Exactly. They'll come and get you.
As I said before, for a franchise like Sonic, there is honestly so many ways they could have taken this film. I mean, you'll probably be familiar with a lot of properties over the years that have been turned into films, like the kind of old 80s, 90s cartoons like Alvin and the Chipmunks, Woody Woodpecker, the Smurfs, that kind of thing.
Ninja Turtles, yeah.
Ninja Turtles, yeah, where they've tried to make it into like a film, or rather like a live action film, and 9 times out of 10 they don't really work, because obviously they're for kids, but is it safe to say they're kind of borderline offensive at times?
They definitely can be as well, because I feel a lot of these films came out in the kind of, formative years of CGI, so they have not aged well in the slightest. Or, if it was the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, some of it's like really like offensive, like rubber suits and stuff, that are probably quite good for the time, but now you're like, oh god, they look terrible. So yeah, I feel a lot of these came out at like a bad time technology-wise. Well, at least with Sonic, I feel now we're at a stage where the available technology can render, a much better version of that kind of cartoon character.
I think if this came out earlier, then yeah, definitely it would not have worked the same. Can you imagine a guy in like a rubber Sonic suit running about?
I really want to see that now. It'd be like those fail videos you see of people in the kind of blow up T-Rex.
Yeah. I mean, I've seen 2 versions. I've seen the people in, the obvious like mascot suits for Sonic, and then I've seen the people who decide to paint themselves blue and run very fast. And let me tell you, there is not a happy medium in between that. Although this is me showing off like my Sonic nerdom here, but I always remember in probably one of the worst considered games of the franchise, but Sonic 06, there's actually a guy called Sonic Man who he wears a helmet and a Sonic t-shirt and he keeps saying, "I'm the real Sonic," and he runs around going, "Vrr." And you're like, God, I just feel bad for beating this guy. You don't beat him up. I want to reiterate, you don't beat him up, you just race him. It's like, I feel really bad for this guy. Is he okay? Because he keeps saying things like, "Oh, I don't believe you're the real Sonic," and you're like, But I have to admit, when I heard it was, like this kind of buddy cop, I was about to say drama. It's not really a drama, It's not when you're going to be scratching your head after and being like, yes.
Murder mystery with something.
Yes, the Sonic Squid Games, as it were. There probably is fan art of that. I'm not even going to make a joke there. It's the internet. It's 2022. There will be fan art.
Send it over to Satsu.
Yeah. If you do, you'll be getting a ban. And my fictional lawyer will be in touch. And my fictional lawyer is indeed telling me that for legal reasons, this is also a joke. In the past, and again, apologies, I'm going on a rant here, but a lot of Sonic media didn't really know where it was kind of placing itself. Like, for example, that Sonic Sat-AM cartoon, they kind of built up their own world where the majority of the inhabitants were like creatures and animals and things. But then, like years later, an anime called Sonic X came out, and they did a weird thing where they repeated the same beats of Sonic Adventure and Sonic Adventure 2, but they did it in the real human world. It was really weird. It's like they transported all the cast from their supposed origins to like the real human world and things, and I don't know, it felt really weird. So when I kind of heard that, that's what they were going to do, again, like I wasn't mad about it or anything, because come on, like it's Sonic the Hedgehog at the end of the day. But I know people who probably are raging that it wasn't like a kind of faithful adaptation. But I mean, see, for what it was, I was actually really surprised at how well they pulled it off. Is it safe to say that it does fall into kind of the same tropes as a lot of these kind of films?
I don't think this film does too many original things, I would say. The buddy cop is the perfect term for it, and I think it follows a lot of those tropes, but it does them well. It doesn't fail at accomplishing that. And that's kind of enough, to be honest. Like, I don't think this film really needed to be like a really original, this didn't need to be a Christopher Nolan, film that blows your mind. You're like, oh my god, I've never seen anything like this before. It just had to do its formula really well, which it did for the most part. So again, I think it does enough.
I was about to say that's all you could ask for with a Sonic film. You do make a good point though, because the first film, and this is especially the case for the 90s, because you remember like the Mortal Kombat film, and of course Super Mario, your favourite, where they set up for a sequel
Yeah.
at the end, and it seemed as if that was the case for a lot of these films at the time, where they were expecting, oh, it's a popular video game, anybody will buy it. Don't get me wrong, I think Mortal Kombat did get a sequel, but yeah, the less said about those, the better. But it's like they were expecting this sequel, whereas nowadays, I think because we've got the power of hindsight and we can just look back and go, okay, maybe don't start off too strong. Like, I mean, even with Detective Pikachu, that does something similar where in a lot of areas they could have gone balls to the wall, but they play it safe. And I feel as if with Sonic, they play it extra, extra safe.
This plays it so safe in terms of everything, and I think setting it in the human world, I guess, was viewed as the safest course of action, because, and that's one thing I actually wanted to ask you, because one criticism I'd maybe level against this film is that I feel it doesn't really use any of the kind of Sonic universe outside of Sonic and kind of Dr. Robotnik. I know there's that little bit at the beginning, but I kind of wondered how, as a Sonic fan, you felt about that, because I kind of looked at that as a slight criticism, but perhaps I don't know how you feel about that.
Well, I'm not saying I created a change.org petition, but I created a change. No, I'm only kidding. I definitely don't. No, I see exactly what you mean. And that was kind of the issue I had with, as I said before, with like that Sonic X series, which I know it's like beloved, but that was the same case where they were taking Sonic and Co from their world into the human world. And it almost felt as if they had to like build the story and things around like the human world. Like they couldn't be too, if it makes sense, they couldn't be too fantastical with their elements. Like obviously, I'm not expecting it to be like a one-for-one interpretation of the games, because I did like the fact that you did see Green Hill Zone. Well, maybe it's not Green Hill Zone, but it's Green Hill Zone at the very beginning of the film. And one thing that was quite interesting as well, and here's your fun fact for the night, Adam, but one thing that was quite interesting was the Echidna tribe that was trying to kidnap Sonic. Did you notice that?
Yeah, I did this at the beginning.
So they're all pretty much just look like Knuckles the Echidna, which you've seen on many a playthrough of Sonic Adventure Adventure 2 on the channel. But yeah, I was actually surprised they got them in, because there was actually a lawsuit about the Echidnas in the series.
Really?
Well, long story short, there was a fellow who created it was like one of the Sega comics at the time. I think it was the Archie comics. There was a guy called Ken Penders, and as soon as I've said that name, I think 1,000 Sonic fans have just shuddered at the other end of this podcast. But basically, he was a guy who, bit of a strange guy. I don't know him personally, obviously, but he did like a lot of very weird storylines and things like that. Honestly, like I would recommend you like look up a video on the whole saga. But long story short, he basically, I can't remember if he got fired or I think he stepped away, but he wanted to take his characters with him, and he had basically built up a Game of Thrones / Lord of the Rings style family tree of like Knuckles the Echidna and his whole family and his whole lineage and things. Yeah, like apparently won a lawsuit against Sega because they lost the paperwork. I think it was Sega and Archie Comics. He won like a lawsuit because they lost the paperwork to prove that they owned the rights to these characters. And he also rose a lawsuit against BioWare as well, because in I think it was 2010, there was a game called Sonic Chronicles, and it was like this DS game where, again, it was like an Echidna tribe who were the main villains, and he sued them because he thought that they were copying his story or something. It's like a whole rabbit hole of information. But anyway, that was a long way for me to say I was really surprised at that aspect, that they brought those guys back. And I don't know whether they're like, oh no, it's just they're aliens or whatever, but I see what you mean. I feel as if taking Sonic out of his world and then into our world, because that's the thing I kind of, again, I agree with you, it's the kind of thing where it's like, if I want to watch a film about something like Sonic the Hedgehog, then I want to see Sonic the Hedgehog and like Sonic the Hedgehog things. I don't want to watch a film about, I cannot even remember the guy's name, you know, that James Marston's character. The Sheriff, Donut Lord. Yeah.
Donut Lord.
Like, don't get me wrong, James Marston and the actors alongside him do a fantastic job in this film. Really great job. But at the same time, it's like, I didn't want to watch a Sonic film where it focused on their like issues. And don't get me wrong, I think the way the film is structured, as you said, it's like the perfect length, it's well paced, so it doesn't come across as if it's like sagging. But at the same time, you kind of think, I would like to have seen, more Sonic elements. But one thing I do like, and I'm just going to point this out quickly, I actually love the way they incorporated Dr. Robotnik into this film.
Yeah, it was in a weird way. This almost felt more like a Doctor Robotnik. Can I ask a quick question first?
Yeah.
So he's got two names, right? He's called Robotnik or Eggman. Is there one that I should be using?
You don't know how happy I am. I'm just like the trivia is coming out tonight. He was always known as Dr. Eggman in like Japan and things, but for whatever reason, when it came to the West, they called him Dr. Robotnik. And I don't know whether that's just like a marketing thing or, I mean, it sounds infinitely cooler than Dr. Eggman by far. But yeah, technically his name's Dr. Eggman, but I think that's what they're going back to call him Robotnik. Because, I mean, come on, you would not take it. But it's a Sonic film again, but you wouldn't take him as seriously if he was known as like Dr. Eggman.
It's kind of like Eggman's like an insult, basically, and he almost adopts it as like it's like a way of like disempowering the word or whatever, or reclaiming the word.
What, to empower eggs?
I don't know, to empower himself. It was like, yeah, I'll take this Eggman moniker and run with it.
So he's appropriating egg culture. That's what you're saying.
That's the real crime he's committed. Okay, well, I'll call him Eggman then, for simplicity. Yeah, it almost felt weirdly to come with like an Eggman origin story.
Yeah.
Slightly more than about as much as it felt like kind of Sonic origin story. I generally liked Eggman in this film. I was a little bit kind of couldn't quite make my mind about Jim Carrey in the role. I felt that when Jim Carrey got to kind of go off the leash and kind of be a bit more the classic Jim Carrey, I really liked it, and I thought Eggman had some really funny lines. Like there's one where he's trying to get into Donut Lord's house, and I can't remember what the Donut Lord says something to him, but I was like, "Oh, that's nice. Throw my orphanhood in my face," which just cracked me up. I thought it was such a hysterical line. So when he kind of gets to go be a bit more crazy, the kind of classic Jim Carrey, I really liked it. But I felt a lot of the film he had to be quite restrained, and I guess this is because he's meant to be a character in the human world, and he is he's a mad scientist, but he is slightly more. He's not the Eggman that of the games and of kind of Sonic lore. And I wonder if in the next film, because kind of by the end of the film, he's kind of adopted the classic Dr. Eggman look, and you feel like he's gone properly unhinged now. So I wonder if moving forward, I might really like it. But I don't know. I kind of felt because Jim Carrey had to play it a bit more. I don't want to say subtle. Subtle's the wrong word, but a bit more restrained. I wasn't always the biggest fan of the character, but genuinely, I liked it.
It's interesting seeing Jim Carrey in a more comical role, because I feel as if the last couple of films that I've seen him in, he's just very serious. And maybe I've missed a couple of comedies, don't get me wrong. Maybe I've just missed a couple. But yeah, he's always been so serious and kind of... It's like it's been a while since I've seen a film where he is just, to coin your phrase, Jim Carrey. Jim Carrey acting like Jim Carrey. And it is refreshing to see. But I see what you mean. It almost feels as if this film had to walk. So hopefully, the sequel, which is coming out this year, so the sequel could run, essentially. Because it looks as if they've got more kind of Sonic-y elements in the sequel coming up. Because at the time of recording this, the sequel hasn't come out, and I don't think it's coming out for Valentine's Day, so unfortunately, neither of us can take our partners to see it.
Well, there goes my plans. I'm out of ideas.
I'm going to have to break the news tonight, it's going to be devastating, but we'll get through this.
You'll be sleeping on the couch tonight.
Exactly, yes, with my Sonic bedspread and everything, of course. It did almost feel as if they were trying to make him more human, if that makes sense, or make him seem as if he belonged in the human world. Like, because you get people like that who are very overbearing and they all think they're right, but I totally agree with you. I think he had some great one-liners. I actually laughed out loud. I know exactly the scene you're talking about. It's when Robotnik is saying, like, I was spitting out formulas when you were spitting up formula, and he goes, I was breastfed, actually. And he says, spit that in my orphan face. That genuinely got a real chuckle from me. I was like, okay, that was pretty funny. And when he's got the big dance number in the middle, which I never thought I would say that about a Sonic film, but when he's just like dancing to himself, his assistant accidentally scares him and he gives him the coffee and he's like, I got you a latte. I thought you would like it. He's like, of course I like a latte. I love the way you make them. And, you know, it's just that energy, which I thought is fantastic, because if he understated it, I think that would have been a huge detriment. But it's the fact he's kind of over the top, maniacal, mad scientist. It was just really a highlight. But looking back into the stars of the film, what were your thoughts on Sonic himself?
I actually thought the voice actor Ben Schwartz did a really good job. I think he was actually perfectly cast. I've seen him in a couple of things. Ben Schwartz. I'm a big fan of Parks and Recreation. He plays kind of one of the bigger secondary characters in that. He's very good. So I've seen a couple of things, and I always thought it was quite funny. But I thought he was absolutely perfect. I felt he got kind of the Sonic personality, a lot of it, that kind of cocky kind of swagger, you know, to it, and the kind of quipping nature of what I associate Sonic's personality with. So I thought he captured that very well. I thought James Marsden had a good performance. I think he did what he needed to do. Again, I don't think his character is particularly an amazingly well-written character. It's very much that kind of stock, as you say, that stock buddy cop. He's kind of the straight man to Sonic, but he does it well enough. You know, I didn't really have any problems with him. Same thing with the actor who plays his wife, Tika Sumpter. I thought she did a good job. I really like the woman who plays her sister. I thought she was really funny, and she has this kind of irrational hatred of Donut Lord, the sheriff, whatever his name is, and Sonic ends up coming down. So I thought she was very funny in her kind of small role. And there was nobody in the cast who I remember having a real problem with. I kind of wish that, you know, there's the kind of crazy conspiracy theorist who's like, there's a blue creature in the...
Yeah.
I kind of wish he'd been given more of a role, because to me that would have been more funny in a way if it had been him who had like discovered Sonic, and, you know, it's them two teaming up. That's maybe my only slight criticism of the casting, but there was no real weak link that I can remember.
Do you want to know a fun fact about that scene as well? See at the very beginning where it's got like a very poorly drawn picture of Sonic?
Mm-hmm.
That's actually a real picture someone drew online. It's called Sonic the Hedgehog, I think.
Oh, really?
It's like an actual picture someone drew. I don't know what the origins are, but it's like a very famous kind of Sonic meme picture, and they actually included that in the film. There was like a lot of really small like Easter eggs and things in it, and I have to say I did like that, like with some of the labels and things, and the, you know, Eggman's, I was about to call it his hut, but it's not really a hut, it's more of a van. An egg van, sorry, an egg van. Actually, no, that just sounds like a terrible business plan. Never mind. But, you know, like, you had a lot of really kind of cool like moments like that. Yeah, I thought he did a good job. I was actually surprised they didn't get the voice actor for the games involved. But see, to be honest, I'm kind of glad they didn't, because I know people who say they're probably not like a big fan of the new voice actor Roger Craig, who I think he's in Resident Evil as well.
He's done quite a few things. He did Batman in one of the Arkham games. He also did some of the earlier Assassin's Creed games. He was one of the main character, Ezio.
Oh, of course, yeah. I mean, he's a talented voice actor. Don't get me wrong, I'm not going to take that away for him just because people don't like his rendition of a cartoon hedgehog. You know, it's like, oh yeah, he's a bad Sonic, therefore, blah, blah, blah. Different strokes and all that. But I was surprised at that. Like, genuinely, I was really surprised. But, I mean, it wasn't an unwelcome change. The guy who plays Urkel, you know, I don't even know what show it is, but you know Urkel, Julio White, I think his name is?
Family Matters, isn't it?
Yeah, he played Sonic at some point.
Oh, wow, really?
Yeah, he played him in that, in the animated film that I was telling you about. Yeah, like, so he's gone through the motions of voice actors and I want to say adoring, but I'm saying that very loosely here. Adoring fans who, you know, every time there's a new voice actor, people are like, oh, I don't really know about this, but I think Ben Schwartz did great, and I think he put in a lot of research, because I was watching a video between, it was him and James Marsden, and they were both like quizzed on Sonic trivia, and Ben Schwartz actually knocked it out the park with his ones. He got 8 out of 8, and James got like, I think 5 out of 8 or 4 out of 8, something like that.
That's not bad. That's quite better than I would do, so fair enough.
Okay, so the next week's episode is...
Oh no, it's the Sonic lore quiz.
Well, you never know, although I would get the most obscure facts of history. But that aside, yeah, I thought he did an incredible job, to be honest. I thought the supporting characters were great. They weren't too overbearing. See if you think about it, though, because I was trying to think of, like, the story beats of this film, and they are very basic, aren't they?
Yeah, it's that classic fish out of water mixed with a kind of buddy cop who then have to go on a road trip, and then you have the kind of final climactic showdown between the hero and the villain. So you're totally right. It hits a lot of familiar beats across the way, and that's kind of like what we were talking about earlier. It's not particularly an original film, but it does those tropes very well.
One of the things that, and I don't know what you maybe think of this as, being someone outside of, I don't want to be gatekeeping and be like outside of the Sonic fandom.
You're not a part of this.
No Adams. We're allowed to have one, okay? Like, see, in terms of Sonic's quote-unquote power, like, don't get me wrong, and I know obviously that's the whole point in the film, that the government want to study him and get his power and everything, but it just kind of seemed random at points.
Has he ever had lightning/EMP powers in any game?
Not as far as I know. No. Like, he's always ran fast. That's kind of been his staple. He always ran really fast. He did curl up into a ball. That's obviously one of his famous moves, the spin dash. But no, he's never really, unless there's like an obscure thing of media this was drawn from, but no, I honestly don't remember there being any like EMP powers, which, see if you actually think about the repercussions of that, like EMP blast, this turns it into like a whole like horror film.
Pick Sonic like a weapon of mass destruction.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure.
I was genuinely surprised when I was watching this film and they used the word domestic terrorism in a Sonic the Hedgehog film. And I thought, aha, that is something I have never heard in a Sonic game. Unless it was in Shadow the Hedgehog, but that's you would expect it in that, but you wouldn't expect it in the family-friendly Sonic film. Like, imagine little Timmy going back to his parents and saying, Mum, what's a domestic terrorist? You're like, how do I explain this in the most Sonic-friendly way possible? And then when they're talking about, like, coups and things, that is one thing I did find hilarious, though. See, when it was like, Dr. Robotnik has put down all these coups all over the country. Or sorry, all over the world. And it was like, really? Are we going into geopolitics in a Sonic film?
Just exactly what Sonic needed.
Yeah, this honestly feels as if it is like, I don't want to say, it's somebody's fan fiction, but if the name Satsunami 42 is on the back of that, I would like it back. Send me an email and I'll give you the address to send it back to. What did you think of that? Did you think it was as jarring, or, because I know it's obviously not a big thing, but...
It was, there's no denying it was a little jarring when the words domestic terrorist came up. I'm not gonna lie. One thing the film has going though is that at least it goes so fast that you kind of, at least you do kind of forget. You're like, oh look, now we're running really fast. Now we're in a bar fight. You kind of forget about the domestic terrorist angle. But maybe that's a thing we can joke about now,
because it dives from that to adverts for Olive Garden and then back again. Which I'm going to be honest. Have you ever been to Olive Garden?
I have not. I've not been to that fabled place.
No, neither have I. I've only heard of it in American shows, and genuinely, this isn't an advert for them. I've heard of them. They've been in 1,000 like American TV shows. Never been, so like the advert fell on deaf ears for me, and they brought it up like I think twice in the film.
Well, that's his big reward, isn't it? At the end, he gets the $50 coupon to Olive Garden.
Which I have to admit, that was kind of chuckle-worthy, but you were like, really? How much did Olive Garden pay? You know what, I don't want to know. I was going to say it probably rivals like the acquisition of like Activision by Microsoft numbers.
He plumped down Olive Garden plumped down a cool 70 million to get positive reference in the Sonic film. I love it.
Was it not 70-something billion?
Oh, 70 billion, sorry. Right. Good point. Sorry, I got my millions and billions mixed up.
Because in, a Sonic the Hedgehog film, the things you really want to come away with is America's anti-terrorism policy and the Olive Garden. Those are like the two sticking points you really want to know about in a Sonic the Hedgehog film.
Also, as well, you might be able to tell me this. Did Sonic get added to Fortnite around this time?
Is Sonic in Fortnite?
Is Sonic in Fortnite?
I don't think he is it?
Because at several points in this film, he does like, flossing. The dance.
Oh, yeah.
Which has made me wonder, I'm like, is Sonic in Fortnite? And B, was he added to Fortnite around this point in time? And so this is like some kind of stealth marketing for Fortnite.
No, I think, let me look that up, because honestly, like, if I find out that Sonic's in Fortnite, I'm coming to your house tonight to like cry.
I thought you said going to have to play it tonight. Fortnite is getting Sonic the Hedgehog skin, but that was last year.
Oh, yeah, for his 30th anniversary. Right, okay. But he's not actually on. Okay, no, that's fine. No, I think, and this is actually a point that I was going to bring up. It's weird watching this film as closer to Sonic's age than, the target demographic of this film. Not to sell myself short, but yeah, I'm not too far off the age of this franchise. In fact, we both are. Nearly.
Did you?
Yeah, but it was weird seeing him making references to things that, obviously, because this is a kid's film, I'm not going to be one of those people raging that he did the floss. But I think because Fortnite's popular, the floss is popular, I can't remember the other things he said, but there were like a couple of references I picked up on.
He reads a lot of comics of the Flash, the superhero.
It almost felt as if it was like gearing all the references to younger audiences. When I say younger audiences, obviously, because it's a children's film, but I mean more in terms of like modern day children. They weren't really advertising themselves to the 90s crowd, if that makes sense. Like there were fan service moments and things, but there wasn't really that kind of 90s attitude.
Yeah, it kind of felt like the producers were like, well, we've got Sonic on the front cover, so that'll probably be enough to draw in, the established fans. So perhaps that's why they tried to gear, so much of the film towards the more Gen X, whatever generation this this is now. They're trying to gear the film more towards that age group, as you say.
I actually can't remember what it's called, but I know what you mean.
Like I lose track with all the different ones.
It does seem as if they are the target for this film, but rightfully so, because I mean, as I said before, in the 90s, it is very much, Sonic is portrayed as a rude hedgehog, with the cool attitude and the sunglasses and everything, and trying to be, I don't want to say edgy, but like Bart Simpson edgy for the time. Rather than, what he was here. Here he just seemed like a kind of naive child. I mean, I was surprised at that kind of portrayal, but again, it's not something I would be up in arms at to be like, oh, it's, the end of the world for Sonic, because at the end of the day, it's introducing Sonic to like a new generation of kids. Although, then again, no, sorry, let me rewind a second, because there is like a 90s reference, and the egg is going to be in my face if I'm wrong here, but is Speed a 90s film?
You're right, it is. It's an early 90s film. Good point.
Yeah, and do you know another film that we're actually watching, which I was really surprised at? Naked Gun.
Oh God, they did watch the first Naked Gun. Oh, it's Enrico Palazzo.
Enrico Palazzo. That's a great film. But anyway, sorry, that's another chat tsunami retrospective in the works. Okay, there was those moments because he goes up to the guy in the bar and he's like, "Hey, pop quiz, hot shot," and he does the whole the standoff. And I'm surprised that his punches did nothing to that guy.
Yeah, because he has been a bit of a brawler, has he not, in some of his games? Like he has beaten up. I seem to remember in Sonic Adventure beating up robots and stuff.
Oh yeah, you literally slam your body. Like he even makes a joke in the film, and I know that's because he's powered up, but he literally makes a joke saying, "Curl yourself into a ball and smash your body against them. It works for me." And it's like, okay, that's pretty funny. Yeah, that's exactly what he does. But yeah, it's kind of surprising. Although I did laugh at that, how he did no damage, but then Robotnik later, when he's interviewing the same guy, throws him through a window. He's like, "My mind's kind of fuzzy." And then it just cuts to him smashing through a window that's literally just been replaced. And you can see the two delivery guys just like, man. It did have its funny moments, though. I wouldn't say I was bored at any point in this film.
Oh yeah, no, I was never. It moves along so well, and there's enough laughs, and there's enough kind of good action. And that's one thing as well. I think they actually got Sonic's speed really well in this film, because I've seen other things where they've tried to kind of emulate and show speed, and doesn't really come across. But I felt like here they really did a good job of it, and that kind of the kind of climactic chase between Eggman and Sonic, where they're spanning the globe and everything, I thought was really well done, and really did capture the essence, because that speed is the essence of Sonic at the end of the day. That also helps as well. You don't really, there's no real lull, there's no real kind of down point of the film.
in that particular point of the film, it definitely felt more of a spectacle, you know, because until then it was your like average buddy cop film, and then this was pretty much all of the scenes in the trailer. You know, they would like cut things in between, but at the end of the day, it would be like Sonic running over the Great Wall of China, Sonic running over the pyramids, Sonic running through, oh god, what's the other one? In Paris under the Eiffel Tower. Very basic landmarks to show, you know, oh, it's a different country, but and then he ends up in like a street in Green Hills. But I know technically, you know, it's like obviously narratively it makes sense, but it almost felt quite boring that it ended in just a random street in Green Hills. It was kind of like, oh man. And then he just kind of like boops him into the ring.
Into the real Mushroom Kingdom.
Would you say the ending to this film seems a bit lackluster?
Again, it does feel that way of, maybe it's not like this, but maybe this is just how I remember it, but it does almost seem like that. Friendship was the real power all along, you know, and that gives Sonic the energy to, as you say, boot Eggman. By the way, have the rings always been teleporters in Sonic?
The rings have always, I think for the majority of the games, the rings are just like the coins, and you know, like the Mario series, where it's just like
It's just vibes, basically.
yeah, where you collect a certain amount. Well, I don't know if it counts for Mario, but for Sonic, at least you get 100 rings, and yeah, you get a extra life and everything, and
Same as Mario.
and that's exactly what they say in the game, or not the game, but that's exactly what they say in the film, where it's like, oh, I need an extra life, haha, and it's like, haha, it's a reference. I think maybe in a spin-off game. Actually, no, I tell a lie. In the original games, there's the special zones, remember?
Oh,
And there's
yeah.
like the big rings there, so maybe
Oh,
that's
okay.
what they were going for. I mean, it's been done before technically, but yeah, in terms of the way they do it in this, I've never really seen it. Like the way the ring just expands, I've never really done that. But again, you know, it's like it's a means to an end, isn't it?
Yeah, well, that's exactly it. As you say, it's a convenient way of, you know, of getting characters
From A
you
to
know
B,
into,
yeah.
yeah, exactly, from A to B basically. But yeah, so sorry, that was a tangent. But you're right, it does feel quite abrupt, the ending, and then, you know, Eggman is sent off to that other world. I kind of felt it was a nice. I mean, one thing I'll say about this film is I think it has some quite nice heartfelt moments. It's a lot of fun, but there is some nice kind of like feel good moments, like when Sonic moves in at the end to the house with Donut Lord and his wife. You know, and there was some bits of like myself watching with my fiance, and they kind of bit early on where Sonic's like, "Oh, I'm gonna be all alone again," and then she was like, "Oh," her heart broke for lonely Sonic there. So there is some quite good emotional scenes to this film that go along nicely alongside the kind of general sense of fun that the film has all the way through. But yeah, I do see what you mean in that it does feel quite like a sort of, especially after that big kind of chase, for the way Eggman's kind of dealt with. It's just a bit like, oh, that's it then, you know, that's done with now.
It felt as if they needed an ending, and they were just like, right, okay, put him in the Phantom Zone, and that was it.
Yeah, good point.
Because I know technically, and I think this is why they put him to the Mushroom Zone, because I think the Mushroom Zone's like one of the first levels in Sonic 3, I want to say. And that was like the first game that Knuckles was introduced in. You know, slight spoilers for anyone who hasn't seen the trailer for the new one, but this is where they're introducing more kind of Sonic elements. So they've got Sonic, they've got Tails coming in, and then they've got Knuckles as well, voiced by Idris Elba, of course, which he actually sounded really good in the role. And I feel bad because Tails' voice actor does sound good as well, but for the life of me, I can't remember who voices them.
She's the one from the games, though, apparently.
Is it actually? Is it the same person?
Colleen O'Shaughnessy? I thought I read that she did, at least she did some of the games. I don't know, maybe she didn't do all of them.
Ah, you're right, it's Colleen O'Shaughnessy.
Yeah.
Because I was trying to remember, honestly, Tails is one of those characters, and just me looping back into my Sonic geekdom, but Tails is one of those characters that either has like great voice actors or voice actresses or downright horrific. I'm looking at you, Sonic Heroes, and don't you worry, Adam. I'll show you one day. But she does an incredible job of voicing the characters. They all do. Like as I said before, like I don't think I came out of this film, and again, like the film that's about to come, I don't think anyone did like a poor job for what they had to do, and that kind of gives me hope for the sequel. You know, that they'll be able to say, okay, we're going to go a little bit crazier with this. We're going to do this, we're going to do that. I don't think they're going to go over the top. I think it's going to be another like action adventure one. I don't think they're going to like deep dive into the Sonic lore and how the government decided to shoot a child in the face in space. Yes, that is part of the Sonic lore. Did you know that?
When's that coming in? I did not. I'm learning so much.
No, that's the Shadow the Hedgehog origin story, where, no, really, he was created through alien DNA, and then the government found out he was creating, like, the scientist who's related to Robotnik, they found out that he was developing both a giant space lizard and a black hedgehog. So they came to raid the station and they shot Shadow's only friend, who was like a 10 or 11-year-old girl, right in his face as she rescued him. Yeah, Sonic's weird. Sonic's weird. So I'm glad we didn't get like a gritty reboot, like an Uwe Boll reboot of Sonic.
Oh, if he'd done that, Shadow would be like straight in there. Oh my god.
See, to be fair, Shadow would be perfect for him.
Shadow and what's it? Rouge, is it? Rouge is, oh my god. I can only imagine what would happen with Rouge. I actually shudder to think.
Would it not literally just be Alone in the Dark?
Literally, Tara Reid would be playing Rouge. That's exactly what. Oh my god, the horror.
But instead of like the demons, it's just like robots or something. It would be something dumb like that. But
oh my god, it would
my
be.
god, the actual horror of that. Yeah, kind of just as a closing point before I go and, think happy thoughts, look at puppies and, try not to wonder what I've done. Is there any kind of closing points you have for this film?
Yeah, so overall, I did like this film. It's a lot of fun. I think it has some nice emotional, heartfelt moments to it. There's no weak link in the cast. The story, while the story is unoriginal, I think it does everything. It does everything well. So there's no real big fault that I can level against this film. It's not my favorite video game film, and you're probably going to disconnect me from the call for saying this. I still prefer the 90s Mario Brothers film to this one, purely because objectively this Sonic film is a much better film than that Mario Brothers film, just purely objectively. But I do think the Sonic film played it very safe. While I kind of like the fact that the Mario film just went, excuse my language here, it just went balls to the wall and was just like, screw it, we're just going to have Dino Hatton, it's going to be this crazy, and we're just going to, I don't even know what, but I admire that about Mario Bros, which makes me kind of love that film in a way that I like Sonic the Hedgehog, but I didn't love this film because I felt it played it quite safe. And hopefully, as you say, this will be a springboard where they can incorporate more of the kind of Sonic universe into future films, and I look forward to seeing what they do with that. But overall, I've got no real problems with this film. I think it's good fun. I would recommend people watch it because I don't think anybody would really have a problem with it. It's inoffensive, it's good fun, there's some nice, the cast does really well, some nice story moments, and yeah, you'll just have a good time watching it.
No, I would echo those points because I'm a filthy copier. But yeah, no, I would totally agree with that. I do think that although this is a safe film, it's probably for the best that they kind of take their time to walk with this film rather than going, to borrow a phrase that we both said earlier, balls to the wall crazy, being like, oh, let's talk about the Chaos Emeralds, let's talk about Angel Island, let's talk about, again, the shooting of an 11-year-old girl on a space station. I still haven't come to terms with that, I have to say. But that is a story for another day. It's a safe film. I would agree with you though. I would also say this isn't my favourite video game film. I don't know what would be. It's unfortunate it's not the Super Mario Brothers film. I'm sorry.
Man.
But I would say the closest probably for me is maybe Detective Pikachu. And
That's fair.
That's because I am just like a filthy nostalgia. I'm a glutton for nostalgia, to be honest, but the way they did everything in that film and just the way they brought everything together, it was just a great experience overall. And that is one we actually do have to do at some point.
Yeah, that'd be a good one.
It's a really good film. For Sonic, maybe it's just because I went in with low expectations thinking, this is just going to be, a run-of-the-mill kind of thing, and it just turned into something that I didn't expect. And again, whether or not that's because of the stigma against video game films, maybe it's just because, people say, oh, video game films are always going to be this medium that people aren't going to take seriously. And if this film and like Detective Pikachu and things have proven anything really, it's that films can be done right. We've had how many films in the last decade trying to capitalise on video game nostalgia, like World of Warcraft, Assassin's Creed. We've got Tomb Raider. Oh Jesus, I forgot about Tomb Raider.
There's quite a few.
Oh god, there's 2 Tomb Raiders actually.
There is Prince of Persia.
I'm just going to go off on a slight rant here. Prince of Persia is one of the worst films I've ever seen. Video game film or not, it's one of the worst ones ever. I hate it with a passion there. I've said my piece. I remember going to see that in the cinema and just having such a visceral reaction of, wow, that was a bad film. That was a really, really bad film.
When are we covering that one?
Next week on Chats and That, no, we're good. Thank you for bringing up those repressed memories, Adam.
That's what I'm here for. I'm here to trigger you.
Now it's a race to see who can raise enough money for the Satsu. Don't worry, we'll both end up in the same place with that one.
I don't want to share a cell with you. We need our own cell.
Yeah, it would just be me saying, did you know in the Sonic comics that you're like, guard, guard, let me out of here. But yeah, there's been tons of them that really haven't captured the essence of what makes a good video game film. I think Uncharted is coming out soon.
Doesn't that look like a fun adventure ride?
Oh yeah, with babyface Tom Holland and
Sully with no mustache. I mean, what the hell? I'm not even a fan of these games, and I'm annoyed by that.
Is that Mark Wahlberg's character?
Yeah, that's Mark Wahlberg.
Right, okay. No, that's fine. That's one of the games that I bought it. I've got it on the backlog, and yet I've yet to play. I bought that game in 2020. That shows you how committed I am.
That's only 2 years.
I know.
It's hardly any time on the backlog.
Can I just say, in 2 years, a sequel to the Sonic film came out, and I haven't even played the first level of Uncharted. I need to get my act together, man.
Well, when you're in the sanitarium, you'll have lots of time.
Oh, exactly. Yeah.
to catch up on the backlog.
Yeah. Yeah, first Persona, then the Yakuza series, Why do I buy games that are 50, 100 hours long?
I think you do it so you have an excuse not to go into the backlog.
Pretty much. It's no, I've got Yakuza, I've got Persona 5. Thanks to our mutual friend S. Banks, I also have Persona 4 to get through. I appreciate it, but...
But you really don't.
But at the same time, it's I have to play it now. It's sitting there, giving me the eyes of, I know what you did. You want to play this? It's no, I really don't. The last game I played like that was Red Dead Redemption 2, and that was on stream, and that is by far one of the worst experiences I think I've ever had. Not because it's a bad game, it's a good game, but I think rushing through the game, no, it's not good. I don't know, maybe I'll play it while I'm watching the Sonic sequel or something in the background, or the Prince of Persia. I'll be like that guy, okay? See, when we review Prince of Persia, I'll be that guy at university who's I didn't actually read the text, but I did this other thing instead, so I'm just going to talk about this for an hour instead. It's so it's yeah, I actually didn't, what? I didn't actually watch Prince of Persia, but I played Persona 5, and I get the feeling they're the same game. So Persona 5 came out in 2000. I'm tempted, but anyway.
Love it.
And on that note, Adam, thank you so much for, finally waxing lyrical about Sonic the Hedgehog.
My pleasure. It's fun to... This was probably a good way for me to get introduced to the Sonic universe in a very small bite-sized chunk. I look forward to undoubtedly delving deeper into this rich and complex universe.
Oh, I don't... Yes, this lovely lore. You can't see it right now, but I am sweating. I'm just oh, sweet Jesus, what have I done? Obviously, you've got the space station incident, you've got giant purple cats that fish, you've got robots. And that's not even the weirdest part, so yeah.
Didn't even mention the Sonic and Princess relationship.
Oh my god, I didn't. What, you mean the Sonic 06 one? See, even you know about that.
Even I know this one.
Okay, guys, even Adam, who is not a Sonic fan, knows about this. Fun fact before we close off the episode, but they actually asked that question to Ben Schwartz and James Marston about the Princess Elise relationship. They both were just a real woman? Just although fun fact, he was supposed to actually have a girlfriend.
He was just it's not supposed to be like Madonna, basically.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah. When Sonic came out in the 90s, he was supposed to have a real human lady as a girlfriend.
It's fine, people.
It was the 90s, it was a different time.
We didn't know any better.
Exactly, we didn't know. You know what? I cannot wait to deep dive into more Sonic topics with you, just to be I feel as if I'm now a Sonic apologist. I'm just on behalf of all Sonic fans everywhere, I am sorry you had to suffer through that. It's that scene at the end of Good Will Hunting, where it'll be you in the corner saying it's not your fault, and I'm just I know, and you're no, it's not your fault. And I'm like,
Don't say it, man.
don't you say there's no way.
You're curling up into a ball and charging at me.
Yeah, on that note, it's like, could I? No.
You're going to be practicing tonight.
Sorry, I definitely wasn't writing down the logistics of that in a haphazard way. You know, just drawing a circle and just a poorly like drawn thing of your face, just like with a speech bubble coming out saying, "Ow, my face." On that note, I'm going to go away and learn how to spin dash. On that note, thank you all so much for listening to this episode of Chatsunami. And if you want to listen to more episodes, you are certainly most welcome to listen to them on Anchor, Spotify, iTunes, YouTube, and really all good podcast apps. So if you've got a podcast app, look for the name Chatsunami, look for the Red Panda, and you are most welcome to listen. And on that note, stay safe, stay awesome, and most importantly, please don't try to spin dash your friends. It'll only end in a lawsuit. I'm not advocating this. The fake lawyer standing behind me is saying, for legal reasons, do not charge into your friends.
The Crime Watch reconstruction, though, will be amazing.
That would be it.
I'd watch that.
Okay, I'm going to go away and try and figure out the legalities of actually recommending this course of action. But until then, as always, stay safe, stay awesome, and most importantly, stay hydrated.